Okay, it's going.
Hey guys, welcome to The Honesty Issue. I'm Sky.
And I'm Katie.
And today we're going to talk about general mental health, depression, anxiety,
bipolar disorder,
PTSD, things that we're going to go into depth later on. So what I've noticed a lot lately is that when you see things on like BuzzFeed, especially with that one that you put up about how it feels to live with depression, and it was that girl that was following around, that those things get passed along Facebook so often, and people are like, oh, I know exactly what this is like, or
yeah, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's so interesting that, you know, it's fine to reblog a video or repost something that kind of says that you're dealing with that, but you can't, you know,
vocalize it.
I'm having a hard time with this.
Yeah. And I think when those things go around Facebook, nobody wants to admit that they struggle with it, but it is important to reach out for help.
Yeah, it's an
when
issue.
You're having a hard time.
And I think it's so much easier when we have like private outlets, like for me it's Tumblr, where you can just
Tumblr.
be, yeah, and for you it's like Twitter, where it's just like,
it's a diary.
Yeah, you can just kind of
and you don't know anyone on it.
Yeah, and nobody's gonna call you out on it really. I don't know. It's a lot easier that way. I don't think that's a good thing. I think we need to work on that.
Sometimes I'll tweet things about how I'm feeling, but I won't tell anyone else, and it won't be until like 4 days later when Skylar texts me. It's like, hey, I saw this tweet 5 days ago.
Hey,
what's going on?
What happened 5 days ago?
Yeah. So I think it's important to speak up about when you're having a hard time, because there's nothing wrong with struggling.
Yeah, and especially in the case that, you know, if you're vocalizing what you're going through, you're looking for help. And it's not I hate the term like attention seeking and stuff, because that's not always what it is. Sometimes you just need someone to vent to.
Yeah. And
that's, you know, kind of not telling someone, hey, I kind of just need to vent, and posting it on Twitter and then someone seeing it 4 days later. It kind of loses that opportunity for them to help you and for you to be able to talk about it.
And I think this is kind of a change of subject, but when
when you
get diagnosed with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, PTSD,
yeah,
you get lost in the like you can't separate yourself from the diagnosis.
You believe that you become your diagnosis.
Yeah, and that's all you're good for.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
It kind of separates you from everyone else. Oh, that she's just sad this day, she doesn't have this serious depression, but maybe I could still talk to her. And sometimes you don't even have that afterthought. It's just, I have PTSD, I don't know anyone that's dealing with this, I don't know how to talk about it, I'm some kind of science project. But even having been recently diagnosed with those kind of issues, it didn't make it any easier for me to be like, oh, I know my group, I know my niche. I know in my experience you have flashbacks and you can't bring them up to people like, oh hey, I just went through something really traumatic, but you can't visually see it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder when it's in your head.
And no one else can see it.
Yeah.
Which makes you feel like you're going crazy.
And a lot of the time that's what you're called. And
yeah,
that's such an issue. Especially with people using mental illness as descriptions or adjectives. That's what I hate
like
the
when
most.
someone says she's being so bipolar today.
Oh, I'm so OCD. I cleaned my bedroom yesterday.
I think that's
she looks so anorexic. Like that drives me
nuts.
nuts.
Is just as mean as calling someone fat. Especially if that person does have an issue with eating.
You don't know their life.
Yeah, you don't know anything that they struggle with. And I do it sometimes too. Like
we do it by accident.
Yeah, because it's just how society works. Patriarchy.
Freaking patriarchy. That's what this is really about.
I don't know what your high school experience was like, but people I went to high school with would never ever mention that they had any issues.
No.
It wasn't until you went and vocalized your issues that other people would.
That's so true. Yeah, I think once other people see your bravery, they're like,
they get inspired.
It's okay. Yeah. And especially in a high school environment, which is good to say, because you get the threat of like, oh, I'm gonna be bullied because of this, or they're gonna make
I'm gonna be an outcast.
You know what? Chances are more likely that that's not gonna happen. It's just something that your brain is trying to make you think so you don't speak up, you don't get help. So it can take over instead of letting you get help. But that's totally right about the bravery thing, and I've noticed that a lot with even just before making these videos, just talking to people. Going through this, I'm, you know, on medication now, I've just started going to therapy. Oh yeah, no, I deal with the same thing. It's like, well, we could have talked about this before, I would have helped you.
And when Skylar and I first met, I was giving a talk in church about my recovery, mostly. And Skylar came up to me, and one of the first things we ever talked about was how she had issues.
Yeah, plenty of them.
And then we didn't talk for like a year. We just secretly admired each other on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
But if I would have not had my head up my own butt and just talked to Skylar, I would have found her a lot sooner.
I think what we fear the most is being judged or being bullied.
And rejected.
Yeah. And that's almost never going to happen. It's more people can connect with you and look out for you. And instead of worrying about, you know, the consequence, think about what you can get out of this. Like, okay, that's gonna help me so much. It's not worth being quiet about it. It gives you so much to work with, and then you might get a friend out of it.
I would never say just when you meet someone, tell them all of your crazy up front.
No.
That's not a good idea. I used to use that method in dating. Like, by the way, these are all of my issues.
By the way,
in fact, I think when I started dating my husband, I was like, here, watch this video of me explaining all of my mental health issues.
That's really me.
He stayed.
Like we said, it's not becoming your diagnosis. It's not, hi, I'm PTSD, how's it going?
But it also can help your friends understand it's not just you having a bad day.
I think there's more good that's going to come out of your situation and being honest than anything of being quiet.
Yeah, definitely.
I think another problem is romanticizing.
I used to romanticize cutting so much, and then
so bad.
I lived with my friend Ashley, and she was like, I hate when people romanticize cutting, and I was like, yeah, me too, and then I stopped because I was embarrassed. It doesn't make you a deeper person, it doesn't make you more interesting, or it's not, you know, viewing the world in some kind of light. It's a burden. And I think the biggest thing people romanticize is eating disorders.
Absolutely.
Pro-am websites of Satan.
It's not, you shouldn't be boosting people along like, hey, stay sick with me. That should never be your goal.
An eating disorder is an actual disease.
Serious,
Yeah, it's not a lifestyle the websites tell you. Like, it's not a choice.
It's not
people
a
are really
choice.
sick because of it.
It's not a fun thing to do.
It ruins your life.
And you lose yourself as a person. I remember struggling with that. It wasn't, when can I hang out with my friends? It's, oh,
when am I going to eat next?
Yeah, or how am I going to get out of lunch?
Yeah.
What are my excuses going to be?
These are things that we just wanted to touch on and that we'll go in depth into later.
Because we for sure have a lot more to say.
Yes, definitely.
But for right now, that's just our general message, what we're going to be talking about, and we love you.
We'll talk to you next time. That's a puddle of sweat.
Is it really?
Like, it's an actual puddle.
Even if you have physical issues, talk about it.
Even if your hands sweat really bad and your doctor keeps telling you you're gonna grow out of it, but you're 20 years old.